Okay, what we're working on today is the vocabulary for section 9.1. Chapter 9 is all about right triangles. And so remember, a right triangle is a triangle that has a 90-degree angle. Now, in a right triangle, the most important side that you'll have is called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the longest side of the right triangle, and it's opposite of the right angle. And so the right angle is always going to be called C. And so this longest side is lowercase c. The hypotenuse is always a lowercase c. And so it's opposite the biggest angle, and so it's the longest side. The next thing we have is we need to know which are the legs of the right triangle. The legs are the two sides that are not the hypotenuse. Doesn't matter if it's leg 1, leg 2, it really doesn't matter. The only side that matters is the hypotenuse. But the other two sides are the legs. All right, Pythagorean theorem is something that you probably have heard of before. Usually when I ask students a formula, this is one of the ones they say. And Pythagorean theorem works on right triangles, and it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you square the two legs, add them together, and it is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A Pythagorean triple is when you have a set of 3 integers with no decimals that satisfy Pythagorean theorem. So here's 2 examples. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 5 squared. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. So when you can have problems that have no decimals and they're perfect numbers, then that is a Pythagorean triple. The converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So this is interesting, because what happens is if it goes backwards, then I know it has to be a right triangle. So if I know that c squared equals a squared plus b squared, or you could do that backwards. If I know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then that means that the triangle must be a right triangle. So what you would do is, if you're given 3 numbers, you would just find the biggest number and say that's the hypotenuse and see if the squares work out. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem, being able to identify an obtuse triangle. All right, well, an obtuse triangle is when you have a big opening, so it would be greater than 90 degrees. So if your hypotenuse is greater than the other two, that means that it's open more than 90 degrees, so then it's an obtuse triangle. Now the same thing works for a acute triangle. If it's open less than 90 degrees, then the hypotenuse is going to be smaller than the other two. So if your hypotenuse squared is big, it's obtuse. If your hypotenuse squared is equal to the others, then it's a right. And if your hypotenuse squared is less than the others, then it is an acute triangle.